Hello, my ninth graders. Hello, my dear students. This is Teacher Muntaha with you. Welcome again to a new lesson. In this lesson, inshallah, we will continue our story, which was titled by God Sees the Truth But Waits, if you remember, and we introduced part one before. Now, today we will continue part two. We have already finished part one, the whole questions and the whole vocabulary. I hope that you memorize the vocabularies and also the questions very right. Now we will continue with part two. We are in Unit 8, Literature Book, pages 179 and 180. This is the beginning of part 2. So again, I will ask you to open your literature book, page 179 and 180. So, of course, we will start with 179. So follow with me, please. Now, before we start listening to part 2 or page 179 from part 2, I will introduce again to you this or these questions. The most important question about the most thing that we are focusing in this story is talking about the mood. Now, I introduced this question before, but I would like to remind you with the importance of these questions. Again, what is the mood of a story? The mood is the feeling or atmosphere that the writer creates. And we focused a lot on what is the mood of the story. God sees the truth but waits. Again, the mood, it means جو العام للقصة أو the story is serious or funny or humorous or what. And we said that the story is filled with important events and very thoughtful. Because of that, the mood is serious, مهم or important. Okay? Now, so, my dears, we are on page 179. God Sees the Truth But Waits, part 2. So, I will ask you again to open your literature book, page 179. You will listen to this page, then we will start explaining the vocabulary that you can see in front of you in the red color, and we will introduce the most important questions. So, listen carefully.
Turn to page 179. God Sees the Truth But Waits, Part 2.
When Aksenov's wife heard that her husband was in jail, she did not know what to believe. Her children were all very young. One was still a baby. She took them all with her and went to the town where her husband was in prison. At first, she was not allowed to see Aksenov, but finally she was given permission to see him. When she saw him in prison clothes with chains on his feet, she fainted and fell to the floor. After she got up, she gathered her children to her and sat down with them by her husband's side. She told him how things were back home and asked him what had happened. He told her everything that had taken place. Then she asked, "What can we do now?" "We must send a letter to the king," he said. "We must ask him to set me free. Surely they will not let an innocent man be punished." His wife said that she had already sent a petition to the king, and that the king refused to consider his case. Aksenov did not reply, and stared sadly at the floor. Then his wife said, "You remember I dreamed that your hair had turned gray. You remember my dream? Ah, if only you had stayed home that day." Then she said softly, "Ivan, my dear husband, tell me the truth. Did you murder the merchant?" "So you do not believe me either?" cried Aksenov, and covering his face with his hands, he burst into tears. Then a guard came to the cell and said that it was time for his wife and children to leave. So, for the last time, Aksenov said goodbye to his family. When they were gone, Aksenov thought about his wife's visit. He remembered that even she suspected him of killing the merchant. Then he said to himself, "It appears that only God knows the truth. God is the one to ask for mercy, and the only one who can give it."
So, my dears, as you listen to page 179, now you have this page in front of you. Now, if you look at the first two lines, and it's obvious to you that we are talking about Aksenov's wife. Now, when she heard that her husband was in jail, she did not know what to believe. So, what did Aksenov's wife do when she heard that her husband is in jail from these two lines? Look, yes, at the end of this line or the second line, what did she do? She took them. Who are them? Her children and the one who's still a baby. She had children, they were all young, and she still has one who was a baby. She took them all with her and went to the town where her husband was in prison. So she took her children and she went to visit whom? To visit her husband, Aksenov, of course, in jail or in prison. Now, the second paragraph or the next paragraph, we are talking about now the visit of whom? Of Aksenov's wife. Now she arrived to the prison and now she will visit whom? Aksenov. Now, from this line, can you tell me what happened to Aksenov's wife when she saw him in prison clothes? He was wearing the prison clothes. Now, what happened to her when she saw him in this appearance? Yes, your answer should be from the second line, the end of the first and the second. When she saw him in prison clothes with chains on his feet, she fainted and fell to the floor. So what happened? She fainted and fell on the floor. She couldn't completing or continue seeing him the way he was. After that, she got up and she started to talk to Aksenov about what happened, about what did he do, how did he come to the jail. Okay? Then she asked him the last question, what can we do now? It is the last line for this paragraph. What can we do now? Now the next two lines, it was the answer from Aksenov. What do you think that Aksenov answered her about her question? It was, what can we do now? Or what was the suggestion or the thing that he would do or he hoped to do? Yes, it's the beginning of this paragraph or these lines. We must send a letter to the king, he said. So Aksenov told his wife that he wanted to send a letter to the king. Now, of course, you can maybe guess what does this letter have. He wanted to send a letter, and inside the letter he will tell the king about his story, and he is innocent and he didn't kill the merchant. Yes, then he said, we must ask him to set me free. We must ask him Yes. So we must ask him to set me free. Surely they will not let an innocent man be punished. His wife said that she had already sent a petition to the king. Petition, it means like a letter to the king, and she told him about Aksenov, and that the king refused to consider his case. So, what was the response or the answer from the king? Did the king agree to give Aksenov to set him free? No. The king refused to consider his case. رفض أن ينظر في قضيته. قضية مين؟ Aksenov. The following paragraph or the next paragraph, now in this paragraph, Aksenov's wife is reminding Aksenov with her dream. Do you remember her dream at the beginning of part 1? That she dreamed that his hair turned gray and there is something bad that happened to him and she didn't want him to go to the fair. Now she reminded him with this dream, and she started to tell him that if you stay that night, nothing of this was happened or happened in this way. At the end of this paragraph, she asked him, or she wanted to know if really her husband was the killer or not. She asked him at the end of this paragraph, did you murder the merchant? Did you kill the merchant? Now, the following paragraph was the reaction from Aksinov. What was his reaction when his wife told him or asked him about if he was the killer or not? Of course, Aksinov couldn't believe what he heard, and he was so much surprised, and he burst into tears. The word that you can see in front of you. He burst into tears. It means that he cried seriously, or he was crying in a very bad way. Then a guard, or the one who is responsible to take Aksinov go back or take him back to the prison, he came and took Aksinov back to the prison. And this was the last time that Aksinov said goodbye to home, to his family. The last paragraph that you can see in this page, when they were gone, we are talking about children, when they were gone, what happened to Aksinov? He remembered that even she, his wife, suspected him of killing the merchant. Now he was so much sad that even his wife suspected, اتهمت زوجها or Aksinov that he was the killer of the merchant. Then Aksinov said, it appears that only God knows the truth. God is the one to ask for mercy and the only one who can give it. So here Aksinov is telling that everyone is suspected him or accused him of being the killer or the thief, but only God knows that he is innocent. Only God has the mercy, ar-Rahmah, in order to know that he was innocent, and only God can give mercy to people or to him or to any innocent one. Now, these are the most important vocabularies that you can see in front of you. I will read them to you. The first one is permission, fainted, punished, free, innocent, petition, refused, consider. Have the most important questions from page 179 that you should memorize with the vocabularies. The first one, what happened when Aksinov's wife saw him in prison clothes? Your answer should be, when she saw him in prison clothes with chains on his feet, she fainted and fell to the floor. Number two, to whom did Aksinov want to send a letter? Did it work? He wanted to send a letter to the king to set him free, but the king refused to consider his work. Did it work? It means, did the king accept or agree the letter? Agree to do what does the letter have? No, the king refused to consider his case or to set Aksinov free. Now, by the end of page 179, you should memorize the whole vocabularies and these two questions. My dears, we will move to page 180 and we will continue this page from part 2. So, listen carefully, please.
Aksinov was sent to a prison camp in Siberia. For 26 years he lived there as a convict. The hair on his head turned as white as snow, and his beard grew very long. He walked slowly, seldom spoke, never laughed, and prayed often. Over the years, no news reached Aksinov from his home. He did not even know if his wife and children were still alive. Then one day, a group of new convicts was brought into the prison. In the evening, the old prisoners gathered around the new ones and asked them where they came from and why they had been sent to the prison camp. Aksenov sat down near the newcomers, and with his eyes staring at the floor, listened to what they said. One of the new convicts was a tall, strong, and vigorous man who was about 60 years old. "Well, friends," he was saying, "the truth is I was sent here for nothing. I borrowed a horse that belonged to a friend, but I was arrested and was accused of stealing it. I explained that I took it because I was in a hurry to get home and that I was going to return it later. I kept telling them that the horse belonged to a friend of mine, but they insisted I had stolen it." The man shook his head and smiled. "It's funny," he said, "because once I really did do something that was wrong. But that time they didn't catch me. And now I have been sent here for doing nothing at all. Ah, well, life is hard to explain." "Where are you from?" someone asked. "I come from Vladimir. My name is Makar Semovich." When he heard that, Aksenov raised his head and said, "Tell me, Semovich, do you know anything about a family named Aksenov? Have you..."
Now, my dears, here we have page 180. So move now to part 2, page 180. So we will continue the story of Aksenov. Now, what happened to Aksenov? Now look at the first two lines. From this line, tell me, what happened to Aksenov after he after what happened to him lately? Now Aksenov was sent to a prison camp in Siberia. So what happened to him? They sent him to a prison camp in Siberia. For how many years? For 26 years. So he lived there as a convict, كمدان أو متهم. So they sent him to a prison in Siberia, and this is the place where the prison is. For how many years? If you look at the first line, for 26 years, he lived there, or he was there as a convict or a criminal or a thief. هو مدان ومتهم. Now, what are the changes that happened to him from his appearance? Your answer should be from the first line, then the second line. The hair on his head turned as white as snow. It means that his hair turned in the color of that, yes, his hair started to be white. And his beard grew very long. Beard, it means اللحية. It grew very long. He walked slowly, seldom spoke, never laughed, and prayed often. So here we have the changes that happened to him because of what happened to him lately, that he was convicted of being the thief and the killer of the merchant. His appearance changes, everything in him changed. Now, what happened after that? Over the years, no news reached Aksenov from his home. He did not even know if his wife and children were still alive. Here we are talking about his situation, that he didn't know anything about his wife nor about his children. Now, the next paragraph. Then one day, now, what happened to Aksenov, or what happened in one day of the prison? One day, a group of new convicts was brought into the prison. In the evening, the old prisoners gathered around the new ones. So, one day in the prison, new convicts or new criminals, they came to the prison. They brought new convicts to the prison. Now, they are together with Aksenov and the other prisoners. Okay? Now, what happened then? Aksenov sat near the newcomers. Newcomers القادمين الجدد. It means the المدانين أو المتهمين الجدد. The one who came to the prison. He sat beside them and he started to listen about what they said, or what are they talking about. Next, in the following paragraph, as you see, we are talking about one of the new convicts. Okay, now one of the new convicts من المدانين الجدد أو المتهمين, the one who they came to the prison, we are talking about some or one of them who was tall, strong and vigorous, and he was 60 years old. Who was he? His name is Makar Semevich. Makar Semevich, another character in the story. Now, who is Makar Semevich? He is a convict. Now, describe him. How was he? From the first line, he was tall, strong, and vigorous. Vigorous means very powerful or very, very strong. And how old was he? He was 60 years old. Now, in the following lines, we are talking about the story of Makar Semevich, that they start to ask him why did he come to the prison, or why did they bring him to the prison. Now, his story from the second line, well, friends, he was saying, here he refers to Makar Semevich, or the new convict. The truth that I was sent here for nothing. I borrowed a horse that belonged to a friend, but I was arrested and was accused of stealing it. So why did they send him to the prison? Because he borrowed his friend's horse, but they accused him of what? Of stealing the horse. I explained that I took it because I was in a hurry, that he wanted to move quickly to get home, and that I was going to return it later, to return what? The horse later. I kept telling them here's the police or the officers, that the horse belonged to a friend of mine, but they insisted, أصروا, I had stolen it, that Makar stole the horse. So the story of Makar Semevich, that he borrowed his friend's horse, but they accused him of being stealing what? The horse. Now, in the following three lines, this is very important, that Makar is talking that it's funny because once I really did do something that was wrong, but that time they didn't catch me. Here we can identify that Makar Semevich, he did something wrong before. So maybe he was the one who did something bad, but this time they brought him for stealing the horse. But he said that once I did something wrong, but they didn't catch me. But now they caught me for nothing, for stealing the horse, but I didn't steal it. Now, in the last three lines, where are you from? Someone asked. Now, someone from the prisoners asked Semevich a question. Where are you from? He said, I come from Vladimir. My name is Makar Semevich. So, when Aksinov heard Vladimir, this is his country or his town. Now, he listened carefully and he had, of course, a question. His question was to ask about whom? What do you think? To ask about his family. This is the last line. When he heard that, he hears Aksinov. Aksinov raised his head and said, Tell me, Semevich, do you know anything about a family named Aksinov? Here is Aksinov asking Semevich if he knows something about Aksinov's family or anything about his wife and his children. Now we finish page 180. Let me remind you of the vocabularies that you can see in the color red. Convict, beard, seldom, prayed, newcomers, vigorous, borrowed, arrested, accused of, in a hurry, insisted, and this is the last word. The most important questions for you to memorize from page 180, which is number 3, because we have 1 and 2 from 179, and here we have number 3 from 180. Where was Aksinov sent? How long was he there? He was sent to a prison camp in Siberia for 26 years. Number 4. How did Makar Semevich look like? He was tall, strong, and vigorous. He was tall, strong, and vigorous. Number 5. What was Semevich accused of? He was accused of stealing his friend's horse. He was accused of stealing his friend's horse. By this, my dears, we end 179 and 180. You have the vocabularies and you have the most important questions. And again, this week I will send to you from Sunday, inshallah, these vocabularies and the questions written again in Literature Study Sheet 3. I hope that you study well, memorizing the whole vocabularies and the questions. See you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.